Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, shaking my brain nipples every day so I can get some of that dirty YouTube money so I can afford to provide you folks hands-on, in-person technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is you want to do in Durham, North Carolina. Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. This is free to the end-user technology education. You come to American Underground in Durham, you learn, and then you go the hell away. That is why I am here. If you want to help support what I am doing, there's a donor box link down below. Do remember, free to the end-user is not actually free. That's why I'm sitting here screaming every day. So good news, boys and girls. Good news. I do believe that Silicon Dojo is going to become a Stupacorn. I know I've been laughing about Stupacorns for the past couple of months, but I realized if I do Stupacorn math myself, I too can be a Stupacorn. So just hear me out, listen to my math, and you will realize that you have to invest in Silicon Dojo now, right? So I was doing the Silicon Dojo class a couple of nights ago, AI and SQL, and during that class, honestly, weirdly enough, within about a 1 minute period, I got $100 worth of tips and donations. Two different people, for some reason, sent $50 within a very short order of time. Now you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, $100 is nice, Eli, but that doesn't get you to Stupacorn. But here's what I want you to think about. Here is the math that I want you to think about, right? I made $100 in a minute. Right? If I can make $100 in a minute, that means I can make $6,000 in an hour. And if I can make $6,000 in an hour, right? And we push Silicon Dojo. Silicon Dojo isn't just in person. We have the transmedia thing going on. We have the website and the rest of that. You know, we can be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 6,000 times 24 times 7. Multiply that by 52, and look at that. We have an annual revenue of something like $1 gajillion. See, if you look at my very obvious math that even a 9-year-old can follow, you can understand where Silicon Dojo is going to hit Stupacorn status. I actually feel so comfortable about Silicon Dojo right now. I think I might just sell $1 billion of my own equity in it, right? You know, that'll give me, some liquidity. I don't need $1 billion, but it'll give me some liquidity. It will allow you to profit from the upside of this venture. It'll be good all the way around. And you're probably sitting there and you're like, Eli, that's dumb. That is manifestly stupid on the face of it. So if it's manifestly stupid on the face of it, for me to say this dumbass crap, why the hell is it Sam Altman and all the rest of these AI pieces of crap can essentially say the same thing, and everybody's like, oh wow, they're so smart. They're so smart. So this is real. I feel like I have to start all these commentary videos with the quote, "This is real." Because it just seems so stupid. But anyways, coming from CNBC, Sam Altman says OpenAI will top $20 billion in annualized revenue this year, hundreds of billions of dollars by 2030. See? That's how you do it, boys and girls. The thing I want you to understand about annualized revenue, and I've talked about this with numbers for a while. So I've been talking about this number thing in startup world for well over a decade at this point, where basically what's been happening in the startup world is the numbers that these founders have don't actually look that good. Like the actual numbers that they have don't look that good. So they figure out numbers that look good and then basically try to sell investors on that, right? So back like 15 years ago, there's the concept of profit, or the concept of being able to be profitable, right? So either you had a company that was actually profitable, or they could say, look, we are driving all of our money back into development. Literally, as soon as we turn off the ad spend or as soon as we turn off the R&D, we become massively profitable again. So that makes sense for the investors, right? But the problem was, at a certain point, most of these companies, not only did they not have profit, they literally didn't even know how to become profitable. There was no plan to profitability. So here, you go to an investor and you want millions or hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in investment money, and you literally don't even know how your thing can get revenue. What do? Well, that's when you start talking about traction. So we go back to 2015, they start talking about traction. Look at the user growth and that type of thing. And then after traction, that got to be blasé. Then we saw this with like Twitter. So Twitter back in the day had like MDAUs, monetizable daily active users. And what is that? That's not actually a user. That's not per human. That's actually per account that logs in. So if I have 5 Twitter accounts and I log into all 5 Twitter accounts on the same day, I'm not counted as one person. I'm counted as 5 MDAUs. Yeah, this shit isn't a joke. This shit isn't a joke, right? And then that's where I said during the COVID boom, all that crap went out the window because they realized, like, trying to prove to investors that they were growing, it was really easy if they were hiring people. Like, obviously, we're growing and successful. Look at how many people we're hiring. But the problem is with this grift, and it's always a fucking grift. Here's the deal. At the end of the day, with business, it's all about profitability. It is all about profitability. As soon as you stray away from the concept of profitability for these businesses, it's a grift, right? I don't care if you're talking about traction. I don't care if you're talking about MDAUs. I don't care if you're talking about asses in seats. I don't care if you're talking about annualized revenue. Everything past profitability is a grift. And the problem with all these grifts is, like any good fad, it comes to an end. People don't care anymore. They're looking for the new sexy cool thing. And so that's where we come about with a new thing that everybody starts talking about. What you'll notice with these AI companies now is they've started talking about annualized revenue. And that sounds pretty good. Does that sound pretty good? I think that sounds pretty. Eli, that's a hell of a lot better than asses in seats. Eli, it's revenue. Eli, you've talked about revenue, and this is revenue. Here's the thing. Annualized is not annual. Our annual revenue is $20 billion is a thing. You look at the profit loss statements, you look at their investments, you look at everything else, you figure out whether or not their business is good or bad. Annualized revenue, what that is I take how much money I earned this month, I multiply that by 12, and that is annualized revenue. So it's not that they're going to have $20 billion in revenue in 2025. It is as of October, if you look at their revenue and you annualize the amount of money that they've made in October, that would come to $20 billion. And that's where I say with all of this is, look, if you've got a good business, that fucking makes sense, you don't have to play all these goddamn games. You don't have to basically commit consensual fraud to get things done if you have a business that more or less makes sense on the face of it. When you have to start creating this consensualized fraud is when everybody knows the numbers don't really work out, but you are collaborating in this scheme to defraud society together. Ergo, you've got to find numbers that everybody nods their head to. And this is the concerning thing with this whole AI bubble, right? When we look at NVIDIA's $5 trillion valuation, they're putting money into OpenAI, so OpenAI can buy their hardware. OpenAI is putting money into Google. It's putting money into Oracle. It's putting money into all these other companies. Other companies are putting money into OpenAI. Anthropic is owned by Amazon and Google, or they own equity in it, and then Anthropic puts money back into Amazon and Google, right? The problem that we're running into here is, right, this is a massive conspiracy to basically defraud the country out of its hard-gained wealth. And so they have to come up with these words, and what happens is everybody agrees that these people are smart. Eli, if they weren't smart, they wouldn't be where they are. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, you could say that one way or the other, right? But that's the issue that we're getting to. And so this is interesting here. Again, it's what to be careful about. This is all a disaster, right? LLMs are fine, models are fine, all this kind of stuff is fine. It's just there's as I talked about before, there's a difference between the technology, the product, and the business, right? The technology is fine, LLMs, neural networks, all that kind of stuff. Not going to argue with that. The product that they're putting out, if you use OpenAI's API, it's actually a very good product. Use DALL-E 3, fucking fabulous on the API, right? If you use a lot of their products. Those are good too. The problem that you run into is the business component. Does the business component work? I don't think it does. I don't think it does. And the more this grows, the more frustrated I am that the powers at be in our society is letting us just go screw continue, right? So anyways, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said Thursday that the AI startup is on track to generate more than $20 billion in annualized revenue run rate this year. So it's on track for an annualized revenue run rate. We're on track to earn $20 billion this year. Here's how you know you're dealing with a decent human being, and here's how you know you're dealing with a schmuck. If somebody says, we are on track to earn $20 billion in calendar year of 2025, you're like, okay, cool. Again, let me look at the rest of your numbers, see what that actually means, but that's cool. If you're dealing with a schmuck, they'll be like, well, we're on track to a $20 billion annualized run rate. What does that actually mean? Does that mean you just made $5? Does that mean you just made $5? Does that mean Sam Altman just drove an Uber for somebody and they gave Sam Altman a $5 tip? And if you think they gave Sam Altman a $5 tip within a 10-second window, and you multiply that 10 seconds over 52 weeks in a year, I mean, you have an annualized run rate of a lot, right? The company has inked more than Jesus Christ. So it's here. They have written the contracts for this. The company has inked more than $1.4 trillion of infrastructure deals in recent months to try and build out the data centers it says are needed to meet growing demand. $1.4 trillion, and to be clear, this is not for the AI, ecosystem. This is just for OpenAI. Does not include xAI, does not include Anthropic, does not include Mistral, doesn't include Google doing their own things, and Amazon doing their own things, and Azure doing their own things, and all the China people doing their things. No, this is one. OpenAI has inked deals for $1.4 trillion. The staggering sum has raised questions from investors and others in the industry about where OpenAI will come up with the money. That's a hell of a question. Quote, we are trying to build the infrastructure for a future economy powered by AI, and given everything we see on the horizon in our research program, this is the time to invest to be really scaling up our technology. And to be clear here, I'm not anti them investing. I'm not anti them building data centers. There's a difference between $100 billion of investment and $1.4 trillion of investment for one company. Altman wrote in a post on X, quote, massive infrastructure projects take quite a while to build, so we have to start now. In September, OpenAI CFO Sarah Fryer told CNBC that OpenAI was on track to generate $13 billion in revenue this year. And so that's where you start to see the weird numbers, right? They're on track for 2025, the calendar year, they're on track to earn $13 billion. The thing is, they came out, they floated that number. They floated the number. Will investors be happy with $13 billion? No, they weren't happy with $13 billion. Fuck, that's the number we got. Okay, how can we get a better number? We need a better number. So that's where you come up with the whole annualized run rate thing there. Yeah, and so basically, let's see here, it goes on and he talks about it at one point. But essentially the idea here is that he thinks that this is going to be worth hundreds of billions of dollars per year. Yeah, okay. Yeah, more than $20 billion in annualized revenue run rate this year, with plans to grow to hundreds of billions in sales by 2030. Well, we've got plans. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Silicon Dojo, you give me your $1 million now. You cash out of your IRA, your 401k plan right now. You give me your $1 million you are going to retire on, because I have plans for making Silicon Dojo a Stupacorn company. Why is it when I say that, you obviously call me a moron? But when Sam Altman says that, everybody's like, oh yeah, of course, of course. And again, you just got to think about this. So 2030, the amazing thing, right? Getting to be older, I'm 49, I'm almost 50. And the weird thing as you get older is time goes by pretty quick. We're at the end of 2025. We're at the end of 2025. That's 4 years away. He's talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in sales. And then 4 years, going from $13 billion in actual revenue, $20 billion in fake revenue, and getting all the way up to hundreds of billions of dollars. Also, they're going to be doing this within a very crowded market. One of the fascinating things about artificial intelligence is how everybody's jumped into this damn thing. Now, I honestly, I have not seen this in the technology world before. Most of the time, these technology companies, they play to their strengths. They want what are called natural monopolies. Again, this is why this time period is kind of bizarre. Most of the time, a lot of these tech companies, what they go for is natural monopolies. The idea is the way to make the most money in a capitalist society is to have a monopoly, right? You're the only one to sell X, Y, or Z, ergo, you can sell it for the highest price. The thing is, in our society, you're not supposed to have monopolies. Depending on who's in the presidency at the time and a whole bunch of other stuff, it gets a little bit fishy. But basically, we have laws. We have laws against monopolies. And so what a lot of these technology companies have done is they've just looked for natural monopolies, right? Can that whole idea of hyperscaling to take over an area, can we hyperscale, take over an area of commerce, and then just simply naturally own it, simply based off of our scale? The scale itself is a moat from keeping other people from trying to compete, right? You think about this with Amazon right now. One of the things that I find fascinating with Amazon is actually how little real competition that they have. Think about this, right? You could create local versions of Amazon, right? You could create, because think about that. There's Best Buys out there and there's Home Depots out there, right? You go to almost any major city, they're gonna have 3 or 4 Best Buys. They're gonna have 5 or 6 Home Depots, along with 5 or 6 Lowe's. Like here in Asheville alone, we're a pretty small city, and I think we've got 3 Home Depots and 3 Lowe's within a pretty small area. So why is it there's one Amazon that covers the entire country, right? Why aren't there local? Why isn't there an Asheville Amazon ripoff, right? And the reason is because basically Amazon has come in, they have gotten to be so big, they've gotten so much buy-in, everything else, that creates essentially a natural monopoly that for whatever reason, maybe from a functional standpoint, it is too hard to compete with them, or it just might be psychological. Like who am I? Again, think about this, as people say, who am I to think that I can compete with Amazon, right? That is an amazing moat right there, just a psychological moat. So what's curious here is when we look at this whole AI disaster, is none of these fuckers have a moat. None of them have a moat. They're all doing, don't get me wrong, there are differences, but more or less the same shit. They're all selling more or less the same product, and more or less they're using a lot of the same tech stacks. They all have, bottomless bank accounts to fund this horse crap. And so it's this really weird world. And so that's the other thing to be thinking about with OpenAI is even if you say, look, the AI space is going to be worth hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Which, again, I'm not sure, but maybe I could go with that. The question is OpenAI itself going to be able to capture that value? And that's where it becomes a big question, especially with all these other companies out there. Again, you think about it with the overall product, right? You think about the ecosystem, so Apple's ecosystem or Microsoft's ecosystem, right? Microsoft is literally creating its own models. Microsoft is creating its own AI stack. Think about this. If I'm in the enterprise world, Do I want to duct tape together a whole bunch of different technology and a whole bunch of different stacks? Or am I just gonna go to Azure, look at the 5,000 services they currently offer, and basically pick the one that's good enough? Right? Look, if I use the Azure stack, I know everything is supposed to work well together. I trust it as much as I do or don't, the Azure stack. And so I just go and build that. I have one dashboard, I have everything else. Do I really want to build on the Azure stack and then have to connect out to OpenAI? Do I want to connect on the Amazon stack and then connect out to OpenAI? Do I want to build on the Google stack and then connect out to OpenAI? Do I want to connect on, do I want to build on my own physical stack and go out and connect to OpenAI? And that's where I say that's the business question there. And I don't think that has been answered nearly well enough. So yeah, so anyways, good news. Sam Altman says that OpenAI is going to be making hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue per year in 2030. And you know, if there's one thing we all know, you can definitely trust some jackass in Silicon Valley. So what do you think about this? What do you think about Sam Altman's funny money? What do you think about Silicon Valley essentially making up new statistics when the actual statistics don't give the numbers that they want them to give? What do you think about this whole crap show? Put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a dumbass. Just be a real Lutnick and put a good, strong American comment down there in the comment section. Do remember what I actually care about at Silicon Dojo. SiliconDojo.com, free to end user hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell you want to do. We're having a class coming up on November 19th on AI and web scraping in Durham, North Carolina. Take a look at SiliconDojo.com to see what our current class schedule is. Free to the end user is not actually free. If you would like to support what I'm doing, there is a donor box link down below. And with that, see y'all later.